In the story The Interlopers, the reader's expectations are contradicted multiple times in the story. In The Interlopers, uh, first of all, you've got this repetitious in the story thing going on here, so I would just say probably what you want to do is end the sentence right there. In The Interlopers, the heads of two families in the middle of a long-lasting feud, George and Ulrich bump into each other in the woods when a tree suddenly falls on them. This story is a good example of situational irony because once they are being crushed under the fallen tree, they decide to work together to call for help. This causes the reader to think that once they are rescued, the long feud between the two families will end, but these expectations are contradicted when their calls for help attract the attention of wolves. Yeah, you've got your writing is very clear, Gabby, which is great. But this is where your thesis begins, and this is where it ends. And a thesis statement is supposed to be one sentence summary of what you're arguing here. So you may need to do some shortening here. I would do this essentially. Let's see here. This story is a good example of situational irony. Hang on. Because the reader thinks that once they are rescued, the long feud between the two families will end. But these expectations are contradicted when their calls for help attract the attention of wolves. And you can make that a single sentence by going, however, these expectations are contradicted. Now, what you're going to want to do then is add a second sentence of summary right here that explains that they make up under the tree. You know, they resolve their conflict. That should go sort of right there. The Interlopers is an example of situational irony because the reader expects that George and Ulrich's family rivalry will come to an end once they work together to get help, but this causes their death. Right, so when you restate the thesis, it doesn't need to be complicated at all. It could just be as simple as roughly where in the story the irony takes place. If you look at my sample 3-paragraph essay, all this sentence is irony exists in who's there, irony takes place in the story who's there at the end. Or something to that effect. I forget exactly what it is. But you know, just roughly where in the story takes place. Also, you want to make sure that you use proper capitalization for story titles, and when we have short stories, you need to use quotation marks around the title of the story. This is clearly depicted in the following. Oh, so sorry. Let's see what we have here. This is clearly depicted in the following quote. Who are they? Asked George, quickly straining his eyes to see what the other would gladly not have seen. Wolves. The reader would think that the figures they see in the distance were reinforcements each of the men had in the forest. It turned out to be wolves. Now, this information seems like it needs to be reworked a little bit, and it needs to be put before the actual quote. Here's why. You need a little bit to contextualize the quote. You need to add a little info about exactly what's happening in the story just before the quote drops, and some of that information is in this sentence, right? The fact that there are figures coming when they think that they're expecting reinforcements, right? So that information can come before the quote, and then your explanation section needs to, in greater detail than your thesis, explain why is this ironic, right? What do we expect? What do we get instead? And what is the overall effect that has on the reader? That's what needs to go there. Situational irony is distinctly portrayed in The Interlopers when George and Ulrich called for help after being crushed under a tree. The reader expects that the help will come, but their cries of help attracts the attention of wolves. Again, we're restating the thesis. It can be quite simple. It can be, situational irony is distinctly portrayed in The Interlopers when George and Ulrich die, for instance, right? This situational irony helps reinforce the theme. Don't let petty conflict blind you from the actual problems and danger. Both George and Ulrich were so concerned with their hate for each other that they hadn't noticed that there was a dangerous tree nearby that would soon fall. Not only that, but they're so blinded by their own hatred for each other that they thought nothing of, putting themselves in a dangerous situation. They went into this forest at night, in the winter, so animals were hungry during a windstorm. So I think you could kind of point to that more than this, as evidence of the fact that they weren't thinking clearly because of their hatred for one another. This theme can apply to our daily lives. We need to remember not to let conflicts blind you from reality. Um, this we versus you is a little bit confusing. I would say people should remember not to let conflicts blind them from reality. Other than that, Gavi, this is, like I said, this is really good, straightforward writing, and I like that border. I don't know how you do that. You should show me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the final draft. Please address all the comments that I gave you. Even though I only wrote down a few of them, I gave a lot of verbal comments too because I know you can handle it. So please, you may need to rewatch this video once or twice just to make sure that you catch everything, but you are responsible for all of the comments that I not only wrote but said. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to explain anything to you, explain my thinking, etc. And I'm looking forward to the final draft.